Hi, and welcome to my romance reading challenge vlog number 1. We have 26 books, they're all sitting behind me. I was really trying to line up myself with them, but that didn't really work. I should have thought the shelving through a little bit better. 26 books, I haven't added any since I filmed the intro. I have a TBR jar, there's 26 pieces of paper, and I think for June I'm gonna start off with 3 books. So I want at least one of them to be Emily Henry, so I think the plan will be to draw 2 from the TBR jar, see if either of them is an Emily Henry book, and if not, then I'm just going to pick one of the 3 behind me. So without further ado, let's draw the first book. And it is Done and Dusted by Lyla Sage. I'm super excited. That was one of the books that I actually really wanted to read. It was one of the romance books that I bought a few months ago because I really wanted to read it, so I'm looking forward to that. So, Done and Dusted by Lyla Sage. It's a cowboy romance that I'm sure you can figure out by the cover. It's a book 1 in a 4-book series called Rebel Blue Ranch, and as far as I know, book number 4 has just been released, and I've actually seen some really good reviews of it. So at the moment on Goodreads, it holds a rating of 3.83 stars, and it has been rated 223,000 times. So I read the synopsis of this one real quick, and it looks like the main character, Emmy, has moved to the big city and she makes a living by riding horses like she's always wanted, but unfortunately due to a trauma, she can't sit in a saddle anymore, so she goes back to her hometown. And back in her hometown, she's reunited with her brother's best friend who used to antagonize her as a kid, and now they have a very different relationship. He's a bad boy, he's a bar owner, and it's a pretty standard trope, but it sounds really fun. So that is the first book that I'm going to be reading in June for my romance reading challenge. Now let's draw another one, and if it's not an Emily Henry, then I'm going to be picking an Emily Henry from the shelf. And it is The Deal. Let me grab the book. So here she is, The Deal by Elle Kennedy. It's a part of the Off-Campus series. It's a very popular book, it's a very popular series, and she's a very popular author when it comes to contemporary romance. The book has been released in 2015, and it holds a rating of 4.22 stars on Goodreads, and it has been rated 927,000 times. The series itself has 5 books. This is book number 1 in the series, and it also has, I think it's 2 short stories. They're not very highly rated, so I think I'm definitely going to skip on those, but if I like the first book, I'm definitely planning on picking up the rest and reading the rest. I've heard pretty good things about the series in general. Same story with Lyla Sage. If I really like Done and Dusted, then I'm probably going to pick up the other 3 and read the other 3. I'm kind of really craving cowboy romance ever since I watched Yellowstone. It's not been an obsession, but it's been an interest of mine, so we'll see how that goes. And looking at the synopsis, it seems that Hannah is the main character, the main female character. Garrett is the main male character. He's a hockey player, and it seems she's really trying to spark his interest, and she's tasked with tutoring him. So that's about all I know, and that's about all I want to know. I'm just going to dive in and see how I feel about the book. And since neither of the 2 books were Emily Henry, and like I mentioned, I want to read at least 1 per month during the summer, I think I'm going to start with You and Me on Vacation. So You and Me on Vacation, it was released in 2021. It currently holds a rating of 3.85 stars, and it has been rated over 1.4 million times, so it's a very popular book, just like pretty much every single Emily Henry book. So I'm very excited to read it. The summer is just around the corner. I feel like this is the perfect book for the summer because it is about summer vacations. It says 2 best friends, 10 summer trips, their last chance to fall in love. So that is my first 3 books for my romance reading challenge. I don't know which order I'm going to start in. I think I might start with Emily Henry because it's a standalone and because I'm looking forward to it potentially the most. But I'm excited about all 3 of them. I picked up all 3 of them thinking that I might enjoy them. The only one that I'm slightly unsure about is Elle Kennedy. I'm a bit on the fence about how much I like spice in my books, and from what I know, she writes a little bit more of a spicy romance, but yeah, we have the 3 books. I'm excited to read all 3 of them. If I just so happen to finish reading them mid-month and I have a bit of time to pick up another 1 or another 2, I'm obviously going to include them, and then I'm just going to draw them from the TBR jar and include them in this vlog. But I hope you enjoy watching me read them and watching me review them, and if you have read any of them, obviously leave a comment down below. I would love to chat. Okay, so we're at the end of June now, and I was very much planning to make it more of a reading vlog style video where I'm filming as I'm reading, but June was a very weird month in terms of my health and just things happening in my life, so it didn't happen. But I have feedback on all three books. I can't say that I have read all three of them because I have actually DNF'd one of them, but I have a lot of thoughts, so let's get into it. So I was very much reading them in a sequence of how much I thought I would like them. So I started with Emily Henry, You and Me on Vacation, then I moved on to Lyla Sage, Done and Dusted, and then I finished off with Elle Kennedy, The Deal. And to be honest, I don't think I have ever been so wrong about three books at once. My predictions completely did not match how I actually felt about them, but let me just break it down book by book. So You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. Like I said, I read it first because I thought I would enjoy it the most. Emily Henry is one of my favorite writers. I keep talking about it. I like her writing, I like her style, I like her characters, I like her stories. I've never really had an issue with any of her books, so I was convinced that the worst case scenario, I'm gonna have a wonderful time just because I like her writing so much, even if maybe I don't enjoy the plot or whatever the case might be. I was wrong. I didn't have an awful time, but I did not have a good time either. So let's start with the plot of the book. I know I mentioned it as I was picking it, but a little bit more detail. So we have Poppy and Alex. They're incredibly different. They became friends as they were driving together to their college. Poppy is very loud and she's very out there, and she loves everything and she wants to be involved in everything. And Alex is kind of the exact opposite. He's shy and he's very much into his academics. He doesn't care for parties. He doesn't care to, be out there and venture out and meet too many people. He just kind of wants to be in his little bubble. But they become friends as they're driving to college because they discover the opposites attract idea of they're so different that it kind of works when you put them together. But eventually, those never-ending differences lead to them living in two completely different cities. Poppy drops out of college. She wants to explore what is there to life. She wants to travel. She wants to find a job related to travel, which she eventually does. And Alex stays in college, and then after graduation, he goes back to their hometown and he becomes a teacher, while Poppy is currently, as we're reading the book, she's currently living in New York and she's working for Rest and Relaxation, which is a magazine, and she's writing articles about travel and describing, travel destinations and sort of travel plans and kind of helping people find their dream travel destination. And they've been living separately in two different cities now for 10 years. And for those 10 years, to keep the friendship alive and to, sort of still keep in touch and see each other and spend time with each other, they've been going on vacations once a year. So different destinations, they've been exploring the world, they've been having a lot of fun. We get to read about those vacations in the book as sort of flashbacks. But 2 years ago, something happened and they stopped talking. It was one of their vacations, something happened in their relationship, and after that, they just haven't kept in touch. But now Poppy finds herself in sort of a rut where she kind of feels like she's just not happy. Nothing is bringing her joy, nothing is exciting her, her job is not exciting her, her life is not exciting her. And she has a conversation with her friend, and her friend asks her when was the last time when she felt truly happy. And Poppy admits to herself and her friend that the last time was when she and Alex were on one of their vacations. So as a result of that conversation, Poppy decides to reach out to Alex and offer to go on another vacation. And she's convinced that it's going to be a no, and she's scared to message him, obviously. But to her surprise, he actually says yes, and they make a plan of going on a summer vacation together. And I genuinely think that the story and the setting and the idea is actually incredibly good, and the setting was great, and it's summer, it's very hot, and they're together, and it's a little bit awkward because they haven't spoken in 2 years, and they're kind of walking around the subject of why they haven't spoken for 2 years. They're not really diving deep into it, and the book is structured in sort of, you have the present time and what's happening in the present time, and then you get flashbacks from their oldest trips to kind of the most recent trips, and then obviously at the end you discover what happened 2 years ago and what went down between them. And it's a very interesting idea. I realized that it's not an incredibly new one and fresh one, but I thought I would really enjoy it based on what the book is about and based on how the romance should have been developing. But to my surprise and to my disappointment, this was kind of the first time when I was actually considering maybe DNFing an Emily Henry book, because I was incredibly bored. And I think the main reason was two very big issues. Now, the issue number one, and it is something that has been mentioned in Goodreads comments because I was nosy and I did check afterwards, and it's the fact that there was no chemistry between them. And I fully agree with that. I am somebody who always roots for characters. I want romance to work out. I want them to be together at the end. But in this case, I didn't care. I didn't care if they're going to end up together. I didn't care if the romance is going to work out or not. I thought their friendship was messy, and I thought involving romance in this kind of friendship is already messy enough. So to me, it was kind of, if they end up together or if they don't end up together, to me it would have been a good enough result either way. I truly just didn't care. And the second issue that I had with this book, and truly it annoyed me to no return, where I just wanted to DNF the book just for that reason alone. And it's how often she mentions how tall and hot he is. And I get it. I understand that a lot of romance books do that. You want to create that image of a perfectly looking man that every woman would want. But in this book, it just didn't feel like it fit the plot, to be quite honest. Alex is supposed to be this nerdy teacher. He's a bit closed off. He loves academics. He loves teaching. He loves reading. But then at the same time, he's this insane gym addict who also runs crazy distances every single day. And she can't stop mentioning how tall he is and how hot he is and how beautiful his body is. And it would have been okay if that happened once or twice, but I kind of felt like it was happening pretty much every single interaction that they had between them. So at some point, it became so incredibly irritating. And I think the worst one, and that was kind of, I guess, the beginning of the end, was on page 66 when they see each other after this long break. You know, they haven't seen each other for 2 years. And the way that she describes hugging him is... it's normal, so natural to push up on my tiptoes and wrap my arms around his waist, burrow my face into his chest and breathe into him. How tall would someone have to be for you to have to get on your tiptoes to hug their waist? That annoyed me to no return, because in my brain I could not imagine it. So therefore it just didn't make sense to me, because I would think that no matter the height difference, you can hug someone's waist without getting on the tiptoes. It just, I'm sorry, it sounds dumb, it sounds ridiculous. So from there on, you just kept repeating how tall and how beautiful and how hot and how shredded his body is, and how wonderfully he looks because he goes to the gym so much and because he works on his body so much. And I think it's great that he does. But for once, I was actually hoping that he would either be the stereotypical nerdy teacher into reading and books and not super worried about his looks and his body, or I just didn't want to hear about it all the time. I don't think I've ever had this issue with other Emily Henry books. I mean, I know she describes the looks, and normally both male and female characters are very visually attractive, but I've never felt like it was so heavily pushed in my face every single page, every single interaction. I just wasn't used to that being so incredibly invasive almost. So as far as my reading experience, I did still enjoy the writing style. It's still the good old Emily Henry, so if you're familiar with her writing style, you're getting, the same thing in here, and characters are, I guess, somewhat similar to the other characters in her books. I guess at this point I can probably say that she is guilty of not having very versatile characters, which doesn't bother me. I'm fine reading about them over and over again. It's not an issue for me, but for somebody it probably will be. For me, it's not a very strong 3-star. I think my bias is making it a 3-star. If Emily Henry wasn't my favorite writer, I would probably bring it down to 2. But because she is, it's a 3-star, and to the date, and I think that will not change, it's my least favorite Emily Henry book. Now, moving on, the second book, and the book that I thought I would also really enjoy, is Lyla Sage Done and Dusted. And unfortunately for me, I ended up DNFing it on page 50. And let me go a little bit into why, because it was incredibly disappointing if I'm being 100% honest. Now, 50 pages was kind of my rule, but it was also the point where I realized that I just don't really want to continue reading it. I thought 50 pages would be kind of enough, considering that most romance books are anywhere between 300 and like 450 pages. So 50 felt enough to understand the writing style of the author, the language that they use, meet the characters, and sort of see how the romance already probably starts to develop, or how the story starts to develop. And in this case, 50 pages was more than enough for me to realize that I just do not want to continue, because it just completely did not meet my expectations. So the plot: Emmy moved to the big city because she doesn't want to live in her hometown. She doesn't want to have anything to do with the ranch. She rides horses for a living. That is her passion. That is something that she loves. Something happens, injury, she can't ride horses anymore. She's forced to come back home to the ranch and continue living there, at least for now. Luke is described as this bad boy, hot cowboy. He owns a bar, he's a bachelor, everybody wants him, he's incredibly handsome, etc., etc. We've read the story before, right? And they've known each other since childhood. Luke is the best friend of Emmy's brother, so Luke has kind of been a part of the family. He's been antagonizing her since she was a kid. He's a little bit older than her, and based on the synopsis alone, it kind of made sense that it's probably going to be the case of Emmy having a crush on Luke since she was a teenager, because why wouldn't you? It's your brother's best friend, he's a bit older, and you would be probably interested, or to some extent at least attracted, to the guy. So at the start of the book, she's back in the small town, in her hometown, and she walks into this bar not knowing that it's Luke's bar, and she sees him, and obviously her old attraction to the brother's best friend kind of floods over her. He's attractive, he's an adult now, she hasn't seen him as an adult, so she's naturally drawn to him. Now, the part that I didn't like and the part that I didn't enjoy was how Luke reacted to her. And the first thing that he thinks about is whether her skirt is made of silk and satin. Now, he then moves on to thinking how she would look in his bed sheets naked, which is great and amazing, but I don't know in how many scenarios a guy would start thinking about the material of the clothing rather than maybe thinking about how great her ass is looking. It also felt a little bit out of place. There wasn't any build up to it. There wasn't, a train of thought of, oh damn, she looks so attractive, I haven't seen her in so many years. It wasn't a gradual attraction. It wasn't like he started feeling like all of a sudden, now that he sees her as an adult, he starts to feel certain things for her. Or maybe he was feeling those things while she was still a teenager, and now they're kind of expressing themselves in a different way. It wasn't anything like that. He saw her and all of a sudden he's all over her, thinking about how she would look in his bed and trying to figure out whether her skirt is made of silk or satin, because, so many men know the difference. And then we continue kind of going through the story without any build-up from Luke's side, and we get to page 51, and he's walking through the ranch, and one of the sentences is, "Today I saw the only thing in my life I ever thought was prettier than Rebel Blue, and that was Emmy." I wanted it to be a different story. I wanted there to be build-up of attraction between both of them. I wanted it to truly be enemies to lovers. I wanted them to continue teasing each other and poking each other, and kind of realizing through that teasing and poking that actually they're attracted to each other. Where it kind of felt like they were already both all over each other, so where's the enemies to lovers element? Where's anything? They already are seemingly madly into each other, so where's the build-up? Where's any of that? And on top of that, if I'm being quite honest, the writing felt a little bit juvenile from the character creation and their depth, or I guess lack of, to sort of how their interactions were looking like, and their thoughts and their monologues and their dialogues. It didn't feel like an adult romance to me. It just felt a bit like a young adult romance with, I'm assuming, implementation of quite a bit of spice based on what I've heard from the reviews. So unfortunately to me, on page 50, when he realizes that Amy is the most beautiful thing he's ever seen in his life, he became a DNF. I wasn't really curious about what's going to happen further. It felt incredibly predictable in the worst possible way. I didn't enjoy the writing. I realized that it's her debut, and I do assume that that probably affected the quality of writing and the quality of story. So I think what my plan is for now is to read her new series. So she comes out with a new book in September. I think it's the end of September. And it's supposed to be a paranormal romance. It's also a Western. I haven't read the synopsis. I don't know what the book is about, but I've heard really good things about the continuation of the series of Rebel Blue Ranch. So I know that she can write well, at least from what people are saying, and I know that some of the books have been rated pretty highly, and I also know that you can pick them up without reading the previous ones, so that wouldn't be an issue. But I think I'm gonna pick up her new book, and I'll see how I like it, and if I really do like it, I will come back to Rebel Blue series and probably skip the first one, because if I'm being honest, I have absolutely no interest in going back into that. And now the last, but most definitely not least, and probably the biggest surprise than the previous two, and it's The Deal by Elle Kennedy. Now, based on Goodreads synopsis, I expected to, I guess, dislike it is probably the best word to say. I didn't expect to be disappointed. My expectation was that I just wouldn't enjoy it. It wouldn't be my cup of tea, because Goodreads synopsis kind of makes you think that the story will start from them having that fake date, kissing, hooking up, and discovering through having the best sex of their life that they're interested in each other. And it sounded like not the romance story that would be up my alley in any shape or form. It also sounded like it's going to be a lot spicier than it was. So I had very low expectations. I was, to be honest, going in thinking that I would most likely DNF it if I don't like it and if the writing style doesn't really vibe with me. But that was absolutely not the case. I honestly had the best time. So the actual plot of the book is Hannah is the main female character. She studies music, she's into her academics, she is a very good student, she gets good grades in pretty much every single subject, and she pays a lot of attention to how well she's doing in school. She can't really risk it, she doesn't have the financial means to risk it. Her family is in a bit of a financial struggle at the moment because of some of the things that have happened in the past. She doesn't party a lot, she obviously has friends, and she's by no means shy or cooped up in her room and never leaving it. She just chooses not to go to parties, and whenever she does, she doesn't drink because of some of the bad things that have happened to her in the past when she was a teenager and somebody heavily mistreated her. And because of those things that happened in the past, Hannah has also not really dated after that. She had a boyfriend, they've dated for a year, but their sex life was not great, and that eventually became a very big issue in their relationship, so they broke up. And after the breakup, she hasn't dated anybody, but she's very attracted to a football player, Justin, but unfortunately she can't really, it's not that she can't get to him, he's not completely ignoring her, he's acknowledging that she exists, but he's not really giving her the interest that she would like. And then we have Garrett, and he's a hockey team captain. He's very cocky, he's very funny, he's very confident, very attractive. He tends to sleep around a lot, and women are very drawn to him. He's incredibly popular, but he doesn't do relationships. And also, he's not as shallow as Hannah initially thinks he is, or how you as a reader would probably think he would be based on the synopsis. He's not into his academics to a crazy extent, but he has to have good grades to continue playing in the team, which comes into play when he gets a bad grade in philosophy, and Hannah scores an A, so he sees that and he asks her to tutor him, and she continues disagreeing, but Garrett is very stubborn and he offers a deal. She will tutor him in philosophy. In exchange, he will pretend that they're dating, so she raises sort of her social status, where Justin would, one, truly notice her and she would be a part of his social circle, and two, Justin will probably want to steal her from Garrett because men love competition and men love a good chase. And I would say that that is all you need to know before diving in, because the rest is just how their relationship unravels and sort of how they get to know each other and open up to each other. And I actually think it's a great romance story. I've seen a fair bit of criticism of how Garrett is not a great guy and he's sexist and he's misogynistic and he's this and that. But at the same time, I think people are slightly forgetting that this is a book that is supposed to be about two college students, and Garrett is supposed to be sexist, and he is supposed to objectify women. He's a hockey team captain. Women throw themselves at him, and he's not incredibly sexist in how he talks about them, because he just openly says that they come to him knowing what they want, and he just gives them what they're asking for. They don't ask for relationships. They know that he's not offering them any, so sure, he's objectifying women because all he does is sleeps with them, but at the same time, they come to him knowing that. Now, as for sexist, there's a couple of slightly sexist jokes and remarks, but again, I think it's very much in character and it's very much expected. I didn't find them incredibly annoying. To be honest, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to them. And as far as the romance story goes, I didn't dislike it in any shape or form. I thought it was really well written. I thought the way that their relationship kind of happened and why it happened it made a lot of sense, and the classical conflict that you get at the end was handled very well by both parties. I wasn't annoyed by it. It didn't bore me. I read the book very quickly and I had a lot of fun with it. It's honestly a very easy 5-star for me. So with that said, that is 3 books off my list. I would probably be interested to pick up the next book in the series for Elle Kennedy. I know that she has, I don't remember how many books she has in the series. I think it's either 4 or 5. And I also know that she has another, I want to say 2 series that are linked to the off-campus series. So I would be curious to read more of them. I don't know if I'm going to do it now or probably later. I don't feel like they're not really a continuation of the story, right? They're just stories of other couples, which I know that they would probably reference the original couples and it kind of would probably link in together. But basically what I'm trying to say is there's no cliffhanger at the end. I don't feel like I have to pick up book 2. I feel like I can very easily park this series and just come back to it whenever I feel like it. But with that said, I have 23 books left in a jar, and I will see you next month in another reading vlog where hopefully I will have another 3 or 4 down and the jar is going to get lighter and lighter. And if you stayed to the end of this video and if you enjoyed it and if you have read any of these books, please let me know what you thought about them. I would absolutely love to chat, especially if you've read Lyla Sage, and if you enjoyed Lyla Sage, please let me know. I want to know if the books get better. I want to know if I'm the only one who felt that the writing was just a little bit not on par and a little bit juvenile and felt a little bit silly at times. So if you've read any of these books, please let me know in the comment section down below how you felt about them, whether you liked them, whether you didn't like them. I would love to have a chat, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.